To dig further into the situation right now in Nagorno-Karabakh, we wanted to speak with someone who is in Armenia covering the story. Neil Hauer is a Canadian freelance journalist and security analyst. Welcome back to the program, Neil.
Thank you for having me.
I want to ask you about a couple of things that came up in our interview with Canadian Senator Leo Housakos. One of the things that he said is that if the Azeris are to take over, that there is a fear that there will be a second Armenian genocide. You are on the ground. What are you hearing there?
I mean, I think I hesitate to use the word genocide just because I'm not sure how many people will even be left there, given how many have already fled. But I absolutely, I think if the Azerbaijan succeeds in militarily reconquering Karabakh, that there will be mass ethnic cleansing. I mean, in terms of civilians who have already left will not be able to come back. Civilians who remain behind. There is such a level of ingrained institutionalized state hatred towards Armenians in Azerbaijan that I think that even if an order were to come from Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev to leave civilians unharmed, it would not be obeyed by troops and commanders on the ground. And I think, yeah, that's something that actually is downplayed too much in this conflict, is that I don't see any scenario in which Azerbaijan captures major civilian centers in Karabakh and there is not mass ethnic cleansing.
In terms of what we know about the casualties thus far, in my conversation with the senator, I did point out that, of course, both sides have alleged that the other side is responsible for casualties. The senator responded that the vast majority of those casualties are Armenians, that it is Armenians who are outnumbered, that they're primarily the ones being killed. Do we have any sense when it comes to the casualties of the breakdown of deaths amongst the two sides?
Yeah, so in terms of casualties, in terms of military casualties, I think it's relatively even between the two sides. In terms of civilian casualties, I mean, it's hard to confirm the exact numbers, but as far as we know, there have been significant numbers. There have been as the Azerbaijani government says, that there's about 70 civilian deaths on their side, which is, I mean, impossible to verify this number, but then by the Armenian and Karabakh side, they say the number is about 40 to 50, which is not necessarily an indication that, the Armenians are trying more to kill civilians. I mean, the Azerbaijanis have shelled cities in Karabakh indiscriminately over the past month, but civilians there have been largely in basements or have fled already. But Armenian forces have struck civilian centers. They struck yesterday. Amnesty International just confirmed today that there was a strike by Armenian forces yesterday on the Azerbaijani city of Barda using banned cluster munitions. And while Azerbaijan began this cycle and used cluster munitions first against civilian settlements and much more heavily in terms of striking civilian settlements, the Armenian forces have now a number of times responded in kind.
I want to ask you, the reason we asked you on the program today initially was in fact to talk about the use of Canadian technology in these Turkish-made drones. You were actually able to photograph some of that technology. So tell us about what you found.
Yeah, so there's been a number of reports. The Armenian and Karabakh armed forces have claimed that they have downed around a dozen of these Turkish TB2 Bayraktar drones now so far. And at the very least, they have one that they downed. I think this was down on October 19th, that is in their possession, that they recovered. And so I've been to see this drone here in Yerevan at the Armenian Aviation Academy. And this drone, I mean, it is what they say it is. And when I was there visiting it, I could see very clearly the Westcam camera on the turret, the optical turret on it. And so this is the uncontrovertible proof that these Canadian exported cameras are being used in Azerbaijan's ongoing military offensive.
Can you tell us any more about what we know about how they're being used?
Yeah, so these drones have been employed extremely effectively. Essentially, it's something I think similar to the U.S. Predator drone, the Reaper Predator drone, in terms of these are drones that they operate at a height of about 5 kilometers, which is beyond anything that the Armenians have that can hit them usually. And they use guided munitions, smart munitions, and these have had a devastating effect on Armenian casualties. I mean, they've taken out now over 100 Armenian battle tanks, huge amounts of artillery, rocket artillery, strikes on clumps of Armenian troops, and have also been used to strike civilian centers. So this has been a massive new element in this conflict.
On Monday, in the midst of everything you're talking about on Monday, a third attempt by Russia, France, and the U.S. to broker a ceasefire failed to end the fighting. So what can you tell us right now about what is happening on the ground and whether the prospect of a ceasefire in any sort of near future seems possible?
I mean, I think the prospects of a ceasefire are unfortunately pretty dim, especially in terms of Azerbaijan launched this war as it had launched a well-planned offensive to retake territory, and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev has made many, many maximalist, bellicose statements, and so now he's almost a victim of his own rhetoric. And then he has said repeatedly to the Azerbaijani people that he is going to retake the entirety of Karabakh, and that they are going to recapture the entirety of the disputed territory. And so now not only is the military situation on the ground going well for Azerbaijani forces, but I think he feels that he needs to deliver on this. And so his incentive to take any ceasefire is extremely limited.
Okay. Neil Hauer, thank you for bringing us up to speed on this.
No problem. Thank you again.
It is Canadian freelance journalist and security analyst Neil Hauer from Yerevan, Armenia.